Hey guys, I'm Kimber, and I'm a Colorado girl in Texas. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm back in the kitchen bringing you another fun recipe. This recipe is very special and near and dear to my heart. This is a family recipe that is from my mom's side of the family and has just been passed down, and I've been making it for years and it's so delicious. Today we're making a Texas sheet cake. It's going to be awesome, so let's get started. So to start our Texas sheet cake, what we're going to do is sift some flour and some sugar together with a little cinnamon into our bowl. So we're going to start with 2 cups of flour, which I have right here. So 2 cups into our sifter. Get that in there and sift her up. Now I have flour over my hands and it's going to end up everywhere because that's just how I roll. Get my sugar going. I've got sugar here. As you know, I'm from Colorado. We've only been living in Texas for like 9 months now. And what I've noticed is that here in Texas, the sugar kind of gets a little clumpy. So because the sugar is a little clumpy, I'm still going to run it through my sifter as well. And it runs through much quicker. So I want to run it through my sifter because I've got lots of little big sugar crystals that I'm just going to dump away. I don't want those big sugar crystals in my flour. Okay, 2 cups of flour done, 2 cups of sugar done. Next, we're going to just add cinnamon. This is a chocolate cake made with cocoa powder. Chocolate and cinnamon together are best friends. This makes this cake warm and rich and yummy. It's so amazing. We're going to whisk all this together. And you know what? I forgot. Hot mess yet again. Let's spray our pan with some cooking spray. I've got this Baker's Joy. I love it because it has the flour in it for baking. Spray the pan, and I've also got my oven heating up to 400 degrees. Get this cooking spray on here. I like to make sure that it's well coated. Probably overdo it. I don't want my cake to stick in my pan. Get that ready for later. We've got cinnamon, we've got flour, we've got sugar. Now the next step is a little bit different. It's boiling. So we're going to boil our next ingredients together on the stove. So come on over to the stove with me. All right, we have our pan on the stove here. I've got 1 stick of butter in here. The butter is going to make it moist and delicious. We're also going to make it extra moist with a 1/2 cup of oil. I just have vegetable oil here. You can use whatever kind of oil you like. I have a cup of water. And then we're going to do 3½ tablespoons of cocoa powder. I'm going to get this all mixed in. Rough tablespoons. Doesn't have to be exact on the cocoa powder. Get that all mixed in, and we're going to hit it with the heat. I don't want this to boil too fast because it'll be boiling over, and I don't want it to boil over. So what I'm going to do is just kind of mix this a little bit, get it all mixed together just a little. The cocoa will dissolve into the water and oil mixture. The butter will melt, and it will be really great. But you want to get this to a full rolling boil. So in the meantime, while this is starting to boil, we're going to go back and over to the counter, and we're going to mix up some of the other ingredients before this is done. So this recipe calls for buttermilk, but I don't have any buttermilk, nor do I ever have buttermilk in my fridge. And it's always in that huge bottle of, a 1/2 gallon or whatever they sell in buttermilk. So the best way to do this for buttermilk, you can just use regular milk, but it's always better with buttermilk, is I have some apple cider vinegar and a 1/2 cup of milk. I'm just going to dissolve just a very teeny splash of vinegar in this milk, and it's going to make our very own buttermilk. We're going to let this sit while we do all of our other things and then come back to it and do the rest. Well, I'm going to take my buttermilk that we made a little bit ago, and I'm going to take a teaspoon of baking soda. We're just going to dissolve that in to the baking soda really quick. Let me grab my whisk. It's right here. Whisk that in. Now I've got 2 room temperature eggs that we are going to add to our milk and baking soda mixture. So I'm just going to crack these eggs into this little bowl. Dump them in. Okay. We've got our eggs in. Whisk our eggs into our milk. A teaspoon of vanilla. I just eyeball it. Use really good vanilla and it'll make everything just that much more special. So good. Amazing. Okay. Got our milk mixture going on. I'm going to check our cocoa butter oil mixture and see if it's ready to be poured into our flour. All right, I pulled our cocoa and butter mixture off of the stove, and it's got a really thin consistency, but it's been boiling and the butter's melted. Just looks like this. We're just going to pour it right into our flour and sugar mixture. Flour, sugar, cinnamon. Pour that in and mix her up. Get that all combined together. We got no lumps in our flour because it was sifted. It's beautiful, it's thin, it's shiny and glossy. It looks great. Next, we will add our milk mixture that we did, milk and egg mixture. Yes, this is hot, but it's been in the warm milk for a while, so the egg should be tempered. We're just going to pour that into our batter and get it all mixed up. Lots of arm strength here. Switch. Okay, look at this. We have our beautiful batter. Perfect consistency. It smells fantastic. It smells like cinnamon, chocolate and cinnamon together. It's one of my favorite combinations. We're just going to pour this into our sheet pan and get it in the oven. Our grease sheet pan. And here we go. Beautiful. Scrape the bowl. Gosh, this looks so good. Smells good. Wait till you taste it. It tastes even better. The grandmas of the world knew what they were doing. Okay, we're going to put this into the oven, 400 degrees, for about 15 minutes. Now it's time for the frosting. We're going to make the frosting. The frosting's also on the stove. So we're starting with a stick of butter again, and we're back to 3.5 tablespoons of cocoa powder. We're going in. We're going to melt the butter into the cocoa powder with 6 tablespoons of milk. I'm not a clean cook. I cannot do anything without making a mess. Story of my life. We're going to let this come to a boil just like we did before. This time we're going to add powdered sugar at the end for the frosting. This recipe calls for nuts. I like to use a cup of chopped pecans. You do not have to use nuts if you have an allergy to nuts or you don't like nuts. Growing up, my brother never liked nuts at all in his desserts or whatever. Didn't like nuts. He doesn't like the texture of nuts. So we would always do half with nuts and half without nuts. But everybody here likes nuts. We're not allergic. So we're going to do a cup of pecans in the frosting at the end. Once this comes to a boil, the butter's melted, we're going to turn it off and we're going to add 3.5 cups of powdered sugar. Okay, we're boiling. We've got our mixture ready. We're going to take it off the heat and we're going to add 3.5 cups of powdered sugar. Powdered sugar going in. Oh, this is going to be fun to clean up. 3.5. Woo! And it's on my shirt. Get this all mixed up carefully. You could have just poured it a cup at a time and mixed so that it doesn't go everywhere, but no, not me. I like to make a mess. Okay, our powdered sugar is a little lumpy and I don't want lumpy powdered sugar. So I'm going to put in some elbow grease and go to town and get all of these lumps out with my whisk. Okay, after lots of elbow grease, I have this smooth consistency. This frosting is divine. So we're going to add just another teaspoon of vanilla, just a teaspoon of vanilla. Stir it up. And next we're going to add our chopped pecans. Here I have a cup of pecans. I'm just going to give these a chop. Get them to where they're in much more bite-sized, manageable pieces. We're going to add this to our frosting. And our cake is still in the oven and we have just a few more minutes left on our cake. And the beauty of this cake is you don't have to wait for it to cool. You're gonna frost it hot. You can eat it right away. So we got this moving. By the time our frosting is done, our cake should be done too. Okay, our timer's about to go off. We're gonna add our nuts to our frosting, and again, leave these out or do half and half if your kids don't like nuts, just like I always had to do growing up. Ha, there's our timer. Timer's off. Let's grab the cake. Okay, our cake is out of the oven. It looks great. It's pulled away from the edges. It's all lumpy, weird. It pulled away from the edges. It's springy. It's bouncing back. It's bouncing back when you touch it. If you want to stick a toothpick in there, in the middle, in the center of the cake, stick a toothpick in. If it comes out clean, you're done. But I can tell you this cake is bouncy, it's spongy, and it's done. Now the cake's hot out of the oven. We're just going to pour our frosting all over our cake. Spread it out evenly. Okay, spread it out evenly all across our cake. Then we'll be ready to eat it. Probably want to let it sit for a little bit so that it can just kind of rest. But it's really good warm. If you eat it right out of the oven warm, it's so, so good. Amazing. Okay, we're all covered, mostly. We're covered. We're gonna let it sit and we're gonna take a bite. Okay, look at this beauty. We're gonna slice it up and I think I'm gonna get my hubs in here to come and try a bite with me. We're gonna slice her up. Everybody in my house always fights over the corners because the crispy little edges are the best. I'm gonna slice it up, show you. Look at the moist, look how moist that is. Look at how rich it's going to taste. It's going to be wonderful. Okay. Hugs. My husband Mario's here. Okay, taste it. You want the corner or the...
I'll take the corner.
Okay.
The corner.
I want the other corner.
Oh, that's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, check it out. He's never had this. I don't think I've ever made it for him.
That's good.
You good?
That's good.
You sure?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your husband will like it too. Guys, don't forget, like, subscribe, and come back for more, because next week we're going to have another amazing video for you guys with more recipes and more fun coming. Bye.